closer.
There you go. We are live, and welcome again. My name is Manuel Reta, and we're doing this in part of the Northwest Washington Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. It's nonprofit, and so basically, as I talked to you earlier, we're here to educate the community. And you see the sign right behind us. I don't know if you can see that. There, you can see it. But anyway, Sharon is here with us, and she will be giving you information that hopefully you will be able to ask questions, and we can try to meet your demands in that way. Um, this is the second time that we have you on. Okay.
No, third time.
Third time?
Yeah.
It's been, yeah.
We know each other from way back.
I think it was when I was a commissioner. It was when I think we met or something. It's been a while. But anyway, Sharon, you are running for what?
State Senate.
State Senate, okay. Para ustedes que están escuchando, también habla un poquito español. Y quiero que aprendan también que es una mujer muy linda en la manera que sí puede comunicarse con ustedes. I believe that Sharon does speak a little bit of Spanish, and she's able to communicate. And those things there, I'm not going to add. As things that you can provide in Espanol and English, whatever. Okay.
Okay.
How long were you in Olympia? How many years?
Sí, 4 años. He estado sirviendo a Olympia de 4 años como su state representative.
Okay. And how many on some of the bills? What can you give me one or two that were challenging in which you actually supported, in which the past? Give me a couple of them. That way, people can know where you stand, what you actually was the challenges involved, but yet with the people together, things did happen in a positive way.
Yeah. So one big thing that's been difficult is our tax code. So in Washington State, with our taxes, they fall mostly on working people, on low and moderate income. They pay a higher percentage of their income. And one of the things that we've been working to do is change that. I think wealthy people need to pay more. They can pay more. And so let's see that if we can make it so wealthy people pay more and working people pay less. So we did a bill that now people are talking about, where we cut taxes for most people that are selling their home. That's under $500,000 a year. And you get a tax cut even if your house is selling for $1.5 million or less, but homes that are selling for more than that pay more. And so we're able to raise more money for schools, for early learning, for public safety, for addressing homelessness, all these really important things. But it was a tax increase for the really wealthy, but not for the low income folks. And so I think that's really important.
Una cosa que le pregunté qué cosa hizo ella durante el tiempo que estuvo en Olympia es que los impuestos, no te palabra impuestos, la palabra taxes, que that was basically the Democrats, the ones that pretty well did that. Okay. Son los Republicans y también los Democrats, y ella es Democrat en la manera que hicieron para ayudar a la gente, los impuestos. Si uno pagaba mucho dinero, esa gente pagaba más para ayudar a la comunidad, para las escuelas, para la comunidad de esa manera. Y por eso digo, ella estuvo en ese proceso en que ganamos, digo yo. Porque de verdad hay veces que uno tiene batalla para comprar una casa o algo también. Y muchas veces necesitan ayuda. Now, you know that the Hispanic population is growing. When I was a commissioner of the state of Washington, I was told back, let's see, about 15 years ago, that it would be a majority in the United States. How do you see it? Have you seen any numbers close to that in Washington State? It's something for you to ask and maybe look at. Somebody else will also ask you those kind of questions.
Es una buena pregunta, pero yo no sé.
Okay.
Lo siento.
Muy bien. The reason I say is there's a lot of people watching right now. There are a lot of Hispanics, and there's a lot of Punjabis. One thing that I have seen through my lifetime, I got here back in 1956 when there used to be Canadian people coming from Canada to work in the berry fields and so forth. And the population at that time, Hispanics, they were constantly coming up here to work, and some did stay. My parents decided not to be going back and forth. They planted their roots here, and we've been here, and I thank God for that because we have accomplished a lot of things. I see that now that some of the Hispanics have stayed, and some are even coming up now to actually be part of the community. Uh, I have seen a change in Linden as far as some of our Dutch people. They used to have their children and they would take over the farms. That's not the case hardly at all that I have witnessed. But and the thing that I'm saying is that the Hispanics are the ones that are milking the cows now.
Hmm.
And basically, the education is very important, and that's toward any ethnic group. And I think also at the same time is when we have a growing population of Hispanics or Punjabis or whatever ethnic groups, there will always be conflicts. Um, have you had these kind of issues brought up in Olympia?
Not between different ethnic groups,
Okay.
but we did have a really big fight over overtime pay in
Okay.
the legislature last session. So there was a Supreme Court case that came through saying dairy farmers sued the state saying we shouldn't be exempted from being required to be paid overtime.
Okay.
So this was part of the National Labor Relations Board. They left out agricultural workers. They left out domestic workers. So a lot of Hispanic folks. I mean, some of that was probably some institutional racism, right? We can't imagine paying these people overtime.
Yeah.
I think that was wrong. You look at who is working in a dairy, and it's very much today with the milking, et cetera, it's very much a factory-like setting. And so overtime is very protective because if you work more than 40 hours, it's just really hard on your body.
Oh, yes.
And so if you need to do that, then you should be paying people more. And part of that is a disincentive to have you work 60 hours a week when such a tough bill. So the Supreme Court struck down the exemption for dairy farmers, and they made it so it was possible that the dairy farmers there was a lawsuit that they were going to be able to sue for the past 3 years of wages. The rest of agriculture, of back pay for overtime, the rest of agriculture knew that they were going to be next. And so our compromise was to say, you don't have to have those 3 years back pay of wages, but we're going to set up a system so that all agricultural workers will be eligible for overtime in the next few years.
Okay. So that law then, Sharon, was that just Washington State, or did it also affect other states?
Just Washington State.
So to me, that was good to help them, to help the agriculture people in that manner, because believe me, I've done it. Agriculture, milking cows and everything else, I've done it, and I've been there, so it's a good thing. One thing I know it's not in your notes, and it's something that happened when I became a commissioner for the state of Washington, Hispanic commissioner. The year that I was asked to be a commissioner, the LNI, I don't know if you know much about her or not, so I'm bringing you some information that maybe you should be aware of. The LNI laws changed, in which the LNI started coming down hard on the injured workers. Not only did they come hard on the injured workers, they changed a lot of the language. It got to the point in which in Washington State, they started firing or dismissing a lot of the doctors. They were Hispanic, a lot of doctors they were bilingual. So when a Hispanic or somebody got hurt, nothing, nada. And see, that has been an issue I know there was two groups that got started up, one in Eastern Washington, one here locally in Mount Vernon. And the one in Mount Vernon is is an LNA doctor, really in reality, but he's also a counselor. He's gone to college in Eastern Washington. He's very educated. He's from Texas too, and but still, these things like that, Sharon, can they be looked into? Can they be changed? And how do we as a community, how can we bring it up to Olympia or to you or to somebody?
So this is really important. It's hard to get good medical care when you can't communicate with your doctor. Some ideas are, one is telemedicine might be helpful here. Maybe not for something where you need to have someone investigate or, I need to look at your arm and see what's wrong. But for telling me and having that communication, and we've been working really hard to expand telemedicine. It was so important during the pandemic, and we're realizing that it's useful for many more things. The other thing is I would love to fund a study to figure out how to get more bilingual doctors out, especially in areas where we need that language. I don't know what the answer is to that, but it's important. I would argue that those doctors and those medical skills are especially important in areas with a lot of agriculture and a lot of Spanish speakers. My little bit of Spanish that I learned was I went down to Mexico and I took a class, and everyone else there was taking medical Spanish. I was learning intro. So there might also be ways to train some of the doctors we have and maybe incentivize that, maybe make that a free opportunity where if you're going to work in Eastern Washington, we'll pay you to go down to Mexico and take a medical Spanish class.
That would be good. The important thing is, I know there's been people that have committed suicide. We had a lady up in Mount Vernon, actually, and that's what happened. And it not only her, but there was been others. And so it is this the issue that I believe is important that we should look into, or have people, that information be brought up before Olympia, and get senators and whatever involved, because it is something that's crucial, especially those that work in the fields, apples and berry, all that agricultural things, milking cows, anything could happen at any given time, and they can get hurt, and yet LNI will deny a lot of times the things that do happen. I think it's important, for us.
One thing we did work on was to make sure that if you are going in for an LNI, if you're going in for an injury complaint and you have an LNI process, you're allowed to videotape yourself. So you can get some additional information, some additional proof. And that was a big fight in the legislature.
That's that's good. That's good. See, and that is the kind of information that we need for the Hispanic population, or for the Punjabis, for those individuals that they have no schooling at all. The ability to educate the people is an absolute. It should be an absolute, because that's the way people will help their families and help grow, and they'll have the ability to get a hold of you or somebody in the state to provide them means, which is very important. It's vital in that respect. So I want to bring that topic up because I know it's very important to the Hispanics, any agriculture. I know when I was a commissioner again, I know Washington State was way up there in the billions of actual revenue from agriculture work. And so that is a big thing that we have to consider, being able to give them the tools and ability for that. So tell me something else you have for us.
I wrote an introduction to myself and I got a little bit of help. So me llamo Sharon Shewmake. Soy profesora de la economía en la Universidad de Western Washington. Hablo poco español, pero me encanta aprender y recibí ayuda con estas propuestas. He estado sirviendo en Olympia durante los últimos 4 años como su state rep. Me apasiona asegurarme de que los de ten cuenta de que son dueños de esta democracia. Cuando corrí en los 2018, y yo no esperaba ganar, pero tocamos muchas puertas, organizamos nuestra comunidad y ganamos.
Sí.
En el futuro, quiero asegurarme de más personas se den cuenta de los accesibles, que somos el gobierno y tal vez pueda inspirar a algunos jóvenes que me escuchan hoy a postularse para un cargo. No puedo hacer este trabajo para siempre y no quiero hacerlo para siempre. Así que necesito encontrar a alguien que me se reemplace. Maybe someone from our community that speaks Spanish and has worked in the fields. I think that would be amazing.
Okay, very good. So you want to say that in English as far as the you need? Because I know there's a lot of kids in high school are graduating, and some are actually just sitting looking for a job or something,
Well, we would love to have them on our campaign. We do pay people to knock doors. If you're sitting in high school and you're looking for a job, my email's in La Voz in the chat. So if you're interested, and especially if you have Spanish language skills, we have a few people on our team, but we could always use more. We love to, and even if you don't have Spanish language skills, we'd love to have you. It's not glamorous work. You knock on doors and you say, hi, will you please vote for Sharon? And mostly what's exciting is that you're excited. That you see something there that's really important. My husband is a green card holder. He can't vote. In 2016, someone knocked on our door and was really excited about the state representative that was running. I was a mom. I was working really hard. I had a little baby. I wasn't paying that much attention. I'm a little ashamed to say that. But I was excited to vote for the top of the ticket. I don't know if I would have voted all the way down, but someone spoke not even to me, but to my husband, and I did. And so that is the job, is to get people to vote all the way down to all the races matter, and the local races now more than ever.
Es muy importante de votar, como dijo Sharon, necesita ayuda, necesita jóvenes que quieren, jóvenes o jóvenes y niños como sea, que le pueden ayudar a ella, solamente como para ir a diferentes lugares para que vote la gente. Es muy importante para los latinos o latinas que aprendan que es una cosa que nos puede ayudar a toda la gente. Y por eso, en esa manera, ella también cuando comenzó era muy nueva y como que luchó, no pensaba que iba a ganar, como dice ella. Y sí ganó y estuvo sirviendo el Estado y aquí otra vez está corriendo otra vez. Y pienso que con su manera de hablar, de luchar por nosotros, es muy importante. Y por eso me gustaría que ustedes aprendan las cosas que está diciendo ella, porque de verdad es una persona que yo he conocido y yo lo tengo, yo pienso que es una persona que puede ganar también en esta carrera. Sí tenemos otras gente, yo también tengo que estar como dice, neutral en esta manera. And I have to be neutral and I have to be able to represent the community, but at the same time, if Sharon comes here and asks for your assistance, your help, because she does have the tools, okay, and the ability to expand. Let me ask you a question about housing. Okay, we have Washington State. We have the whole state of Washington. There's different parts or in here locally, actually, that I have tried to reach out to mayors about their housing situation. Matter of fact, I went down to Everson. I don't know if you were down there or not. I tried to reach out to the mayor there that I wanted an opportunity to talk to him. I haven't got a call yet. But either way.
Oh, I can connect you. Yeah. We'll talk. We'll call him.
The important thing, the thing that I would like to see, and I think it's an essential thing. We have here in Washington State, we have what's that, essential workers, so we call it. Now the people that actually are working in the fields, in agriculture, okay? Yes, and right now they are somewhat protected because they are actually working berries or apples or cherries or things like that. There's a division. There are people, they don't believe that they should be working here. They believe they're taking advantage of the welfare. There are those individuals that are constantly thinking that. These essential workers, I want to say 50, 80% of them have applied for I-10 number. You know a little bit about that. The I-10 number is a number given to them. It's not Social Security. It's an I-10 number. It's given to them to be able to work somewhat. So at the end of the year, they are paying those taxes, or they're paying taxes actually with I-10 number. They do not get a penny back from that I-10 number. It's not like us. We're working, we have a Social Security, and we get money back I'm 71. I'm getting money back from a Social Security and so forth, you know. But a lot of these people here, thousands of people, are paying into the U.S. government. They will never see a penny come back unless the law changes. I know sooner or later this issue will probably be brought up in Olympia or be brought up all the way to Washington, D.C. But it's something for you to consider right now. When you see somebody out working out there, don't try not to put them down. That should be an absolute. They're providing berries for you. They're providing milk on the table. They're providing everything from housekeeping, everything you can think of. So when you see a minority or Hispanic or Punjabi, treat them like we should treat them like they were your own family. Okay.
Agricultural work is hard
Mhm.
work, and we should be thankful. I'll tell you a little bit. I'll put on my economist hat on. And what we find from the economics is that immigrants add more to our economy than they use. They come with two hands and do a lot of work. And so over and over again, we see that. So when the Muriel boat lift, which was a bunch of Cubans that came to Miami, we saw that everyone was worried that everything was changing, but we actually saw that the economy did better compared to other cities that didn't have all those immigrants. So there were new businesses. A lot of them started by the immigrants. We see that immigrants travel to communities and they actually lower crime. They work hard. They're watching their neighbors. They care about their family. I think immigration is a great deal, partially because people that are willing to move from their village or their small community and travel 3,000 miles to America are people that are pretty hardworking and industrious. I mean, I married one, so I'm biased, but the research shows this too. I think if you can, I mean, I don't deal with immigration, but I think if you can pass a background check and you're willing to walk 3,000 miles to come to America, you're probably a pretty hard worker that we want here. And so right now, we don't have enough locals, native-born people that want to pick our berries, that want to milk our cows. And so the question isn't whether or not foreigners are going to be picking our food. It's whether they'll be picking our food in Whatcom County or in Mexico, frankly. And so if we aren't kind to the workers, if we aren't giving them the supports they need, that includes housing, and I know there was that issue at Everson Meadows, if we aren't, we're thinking about ways. We did something called the Working Families Tax Rebate. That's getting $1,200 to families starting next year. And we made sure that we included people with an I-10 number because they are also working families. They deserve these tax rebates. They're an integral part of our society.
Good. ¿No en español? La cosa que dice ella, que ella está para la gente que viene de México o de India, como sea, porque muchas veces ellos vienen a trabajar, vienen a pescar la fresa o la manzana o la cherry o a ordeñar vacas, como sea. Es parte de la gente que no le duele trabajar con las manos. Y por eso la comunidad crece. Hay dinero, hay más dinero. Y no están en el welfare que mucha gente piensa, no están en el welfare. Por eso es muy importante de aceptar la verdad. Yo tengo aquí desde el 57. Yo he visto el cambio en esta área del condado. Y por eso digo yo que hay muchas cosas que tenemos que aprender. Como dice Sharon, ella también estudió. El estudio también dice que la gente viene para apoyar, para trabajar, para que los niños crezcan bien, tengan escuela, que es muy importante, porque muchas veces los niños que vienen son niños que están listos para aprender el inglés, aprender cosas. Y muy pronto usted está viendo también que hay muchos latinos que están ya en buen trabajos que de verdad que yo no pensaba de ver. Mi hijo lo crié también conmigo, te crié un poco pobre y él ahorita trabaja en el hospital. Y por eso digo yo, hay carreras en que nuestros hijos pueden entrar, nada más que se tiene que estar en la escuela. Yo aquí, como una persona que estoy para ayudar a mi gente, yo siempre estoy estudiando, apoyando las escuelas. Yo sé también que Nuxac ha hecho buen trabajo y también Bellingham, Greg Baker. I like to say that he's done an excellent job trying to help our kids. And anyway, I'm not trying to put Baker up, but he's a good man.
I agree.
But anyway, and I think it's very important. I'm trying to speak both English and Spanish, but I think it's important that being an immigrant is a plus for a community, for the farmers, dairy growers, cherries, apples, people that are actually cleaning your house right now as I speak. You know, that these are people come here. If they have an IT number, then they're doing the right thing. And if they don't have an IT number, I would ask you to please ask them to apply for an IT number. That would be one less thing that they would have to worry about, and that would give them confidence to trust in you. So now a little bit about trust. If you trust somebody, and if they gain that trust, then you're going to have somebody that's going to stay with you for a long, long time. Because that is something in Mexico, there's not a lot of times there's no trust. That's why they flee from Mexico to a place where they can have something. And I know growing up, I've seen that. And it's important that we bind together with that love and the respect for mankind.
And I'd say along those lines, we have to make sure that we're building trust in our democracy, that people really believe their vote matters. I do think that your vote matters, that we have one of the most secure voting systems in the nation, and that vote by mail is a great way to do it, whether English is your second language or your third language. Families sit around and they talk about their values. They talk about the issues. I love the way we vote so much, because you can be so informed, and you get this voter guide, and you can get it in multiple languages. And I think we have to really protect that and protect democracy, especially right now.
Well, Washington is really good in that way. You get on to Texas, I think there's a few issues that are going on over there. I don't know if it's going to be resolved or what, But either way, I think it's important that we lean on the people that we have voted into the different positions, and I think I believe that it's only the right that we support. Vote. That's got to be an absolute for all of you listeners. And I was hoping you would be, I know that people be listening to us right now, and there'll be a lot more later on after we shut the show down. But yes, the most important thing is, I think, in a way, is you have met Sharon, habla un poco español, entiende un poco español, y esta también, como siempre les digo a ustedes, la voy a invitar a otro tiempo también cuando venga para hablar. Y también cosas también que ella tiene o ella está haciendo en Olimpia, que si es importante, aquí puede venir a la radio para que ustedes no tienen que ir hasta Olimpia, ¿ok? Ella puede venir a explicar las cosas, las leyes, las cosas que están luchando. Si al caso ella necesita ayuda con una ley, consejos, aquí está. I think it's important that if there is a law that you're trying to pass and you're trying to get people to help you pass a certain law or something, I think we can have that here, you know.
One thing that I would really like to hear from your listeners is about their responses and how they've been recovering from the flood and what we can do more of. Alicia Rep Rule, she's my seatmate. We worked really hard on trying to figure out, what do people need to recover? What do businesses need to recover? How can we make sure that we can get people back into housing and get them stable again? And so I put my email there, and I think that you should always tell your stories to your elected officials. Even if you feel like you're complaining, it's actually really helpful for me to hear where you're struggling, because sometimes I can remove those struggles. Not always, but sometimes. And I'd love to be able to remove those struggles, but I can't if I don't know what they are.
Okay. Y es importante que si usted tiene una pregunta, mira, yo conozco a una señora que se llama María, no le voy a decir el apellido. María ya tiene que ser mi edad, y está luchando para dónde vivir. Tiene una hija que está con ella, y ella también tiene su edad, tiene como, yo creo como 25 años, yo creo, más o menos, y han tenido problemas de hallar una casa para rentar. Siempre se ponen a rentar con otra persona y no es igual. This lady, Maria, has had issues with living or renting because she's partly disabled, but she still has her daughter, who's around 25. And they don't not make enough money to be able to rent a nice apartment or a nice house. Right now, as I speak, she's living with somebody. So these kind of problems exist here in Whatcom County. She's not the only one. And I do get a lot of information. A lot of people will call me or they will come here to talk about those things. But you see, these are the things that I believe, issues that there are people that need help. If you can provide or if you have the means, then contact us so we can at least help in some way or to ease some of the problems, you know.
Yeah, and you spoke about housing, and la viviente es muy, muy importante y probablemente la mayor parte de su presupuesto.
Sí.
Sí. El Estado puede tomar medidas aquí que funcionarían y está facilitando la construcción. En este momento no tenemos suficientes hogares y se recuerdan a la pandemia cuando de repente todos quieren desinfectantes para baños, no había suficiente, el precio se disparó. Pero, entonces, ¿qué pasó? La gente empezó a producir más y el precio bajó. Eso debe permitirse que suceda para la vivienda. Pero hemos hecho que será muy difícil de construir y hemos limitado la cantidad de tierra donde la gente puede construir. Es un grande problema. Quiero que sea más fácil construir viviendas, especialmente en ciudades donde están los trabajos, las escuelas, las tiendas y los vecinos. That's the one thing that I want to work on in the next 4 years is how do we build more in cities where the jobs are, where the stores are, where people want to live, and how do we make it so we're still protecting our quality of life?
That's correct. That is a very, very important issue, and we have seen the floods. We've seen Nooksack River. We've seen Everson. We've seen Sumas. There are things there that need to be corrected. Now, I think we lost one life that I know of, maybe more, I don't know. But uh, like I said, that's the reason that I went to Everson. But let me ask you a question. Is there money? Does the state have money to be able to build housing in our location?
Sí, pero es muy, muy caro.
Sí.
So I looked at, there's a housing complex near me in Bellingham, and I took out the total amount of money that it cost to build it, divided by the number of units, $350,000 for a 1 or 2 bedroom. Really expensive. My house was less than that when I bought it. And so I think what we have to do is we still have to do that. And I'm trying to figure out a way that we can rebuild Everson Meadows, or figure out a way for the farm workers that want to live in Everson to live there in a place that's safe without a lot of mold.
Okay.
But I think we also have to look at private market solutions, and that is allowing for people to build accessory dwelling units. So those are little garden cottages. I had a bill that the Senate killed. That's why I have to go to the Senate and bring it through. That would have allowed every single family home to have a garden cottage attached and a detached. So sometimes they're called ADUs.
Okay.
Those are naturally affordable housing types. It's a great way if you have a kid, or if you have an older parent and maybe you don't want to live with them, or there's not enough space, you can have them on the property and you can care for them. And all you have to do is build the unit. So that's kind of the first step. But we also just need to allow for more density. So some duplexes, some triplexes, things that I live in an area of Bellingham where there's lots of those. You're not allowed to build more, though. And I think that's dumb. I think that my neighborhood is lovely. People from Ferndale will drive in to walk around it because the gardens are so lovely. And I live next to a corner store where people from all over the world shop. It's great. I love it. It's run by a lovely East Indian family. And the only reason that they have enough business is because there's a big affordable housing tower nearby. And they basically keep that place open, which benefits me because I can buy beer and chips there. My kids go, when they want ice cream, we go to the corner store. It's great. And I think that we need more of things like that. We need to allow people to live in mixed neighborhoods where we have that lovely diversity of income. It's an environmental solution. And it's affordability solution. Maybe you can't afford a plot of land for $300,000, but if you're allowed to build 4 units on it, then suddenly the land isn't so expensive. And so you can have a little bit of economic integration, even in the quote unquote nice neighborhoods.
Well, that is a point, a good point you brought up, because in reality, I know that the land is, the housing, the value of the house has been going up and up. So I don't know exactly how we can really resolve that, especially like in Sumas or even in Everson with a flood or with a river. I don't know. It's a big question there as far as can we construct there that would, run the water and everything else. I don't really understand.
We've been working on a plan with the county, and my job is to fund it, but also to make sure everyone comes together as part of this plan and they don't get left out. So you have the river, and the Nooksack kind of curves like this. And what happens at Everson is it jumps over the banks, it floods Everson. It goes, that's where Jose Garcia passed away. It goes over Main Street, and then it goes all the way up, and then it hits out Sumas, and it's just sheet flow. So what we can do is we can try and make it so we're doing one project that means that a little bit less water comes over, so that helps a little bit. But also what we're trying to do is we're trying to buy out the families that are otherwise in there, and then create a safe route for the water to go through. You can't prevent a flood, but you can move people and homes out of harm's way. And so we want to create some, they're called a ring dike around kind of West Nooksack and East Everson, and then possibly flood some farmlands with the permission of the farmer. We'll pay them for their lost crop, and then hopefully be able to bring the water around Sumas and deliver it to Canada in a place they're expecting. Big, expensive project. But we also we lost a lot of money and one life in this last flood, and we're expecting to see more floods like this. So it's essential that we do this. I know there are some people that think if we just dredge the river, it'll be better. But when I talk to the geologists, they say it won't be better. And I also don't think we'll ever be able to permit it. And so we've worked for the last 20 years talking about dredging the river and had that fight. We've gotten nowhere. I think it's time to do something that we can permit, that the scientists and the agencies will be on board with. And so that's what I'm trying to work on.
Okay. Well, I know when you start dredging the river, that affects the fish,
Mm-hmm.
and our local tribes and everything else. And I can understand that it's not good, but what you have in mind would be good. I think it would be a plus.
Yeah, it's a win-win.
Because I think it's good.
And the other thing about dredging the river too is, so if you don't have the water when it's really, really high and it jumps over there,
Mm-hmm.
if it's not allowed to do that, then all that water is coming down and hitting Ferndale.
Oh, yeah.
And this last flood was really close to overtaking and really flooding Ferndale. And then the 1990s, there was a lot less concrete. Ferndale population has about doubled since then. And so there's just a lot of people in the way of Ferndale too. And I don't think it's right to pit upstream communities against downstream communities. We have to figure out a way to do this together.
Yes, that's correct. So we have issues that can be brought up to Olympia for your listeners. And I think it's important that, these are the things that hopefully Sharon will be working on. She has paperwork more or less, or studies or something, in effect to help out. But anyway, either way, it's important that we all, as citizens, vote. It's important that we vote, and we also we have time and opportunity to voice and get a hold of Sharon. You got the information there on the computer there, so you can email her, and we can go from there. So what else do you have? Anything else?
Housing is what I want to work on.
Okay.
Some of the other bills that we did too is one was prescription drugs.
Okay.
So when you get your prescription drug, all the instructions were not necessarily translated for you.
Oh.
We required them to translate those instructions. And we heard from folks, one was a Vietnamese refugee, and she talked about how she had to translate for her parents when they got their heart medicine, and she was, 6, or maybe not 6, but 9. And so making sure that we have that language access to more and more people. And when I don't always see these problems because I speak English and I don't notice that it's not in Punjabi. But when your listeners or other people are having these issues, they should come tell me this, because that's how we make changes.
And how many, ¿cómo le voy a decir? Ustedes que están escuchando, como dice Sharon de la medicina, ¿cuántas veces usted que ya está grande, de mayor edad, cuando usted era niño, pequeñito, como 6, 7 años, ¿cuántas veces usted habló el inglés para ayudar a su mamá, a su papá con la medicina? Y usted estaba joven, ¿verdad? Y todavía sigue la misma cosa. Por eso digo, como digo Sharon, ellos han hecho cosas diferentes en las leyes para ayudar los pobres, las gentes que no saben hablar el inglés o leer las cosas que están escritas en los botes de medicina. Pues es importante de hacer cosas o de ideas que usted pueda tener para ella, para que llevarla para Olimpia, para abrir cosas mucho más mejor. And I also believe that it's very important for the young people. Now I'm talking a little bit toward the high school kids. Your high school kids are reaching the age of accountability. And a lot of times, maybe your parents, they don't, now I'm talking about minority. Maybe your parents don't know how to read or write. You are the one that's been helping in the family. Don't be embarrassed or shy of what you are. You have a voice. You have the strength, and you have the ability to help your mama, your dad, or your mom, whatever, or somebody else that cannot defend themselves. You are going to school. You are learning. You can help. This to me is one thing that I did it when I was young, helping others. I'm still doing it. I love to help people, especially when they're not able to get help. So I'm hoping that we can reach the young people. They are the future tomorrow. They are the ones that will become doctors and instructors and what else. So make sure you teach them the right thing and give them the understanding, give them the love that they need, so they can be creative in that manner. Es muy importante de criar nuestros jóvenes en la manera con el temor de Dios para poder ayudar a sus familias, porque muchas veces estos jóvenes, sus hijos, están en la escuela, están aprendiendo el inglés, están estudiando, saben leer, escribir y pueden ayudar a los ancianos que de verdad no saben el inglés, no saben hablar. Sus hijos tienen el poder de ayudar o de apoyar a esos que de verdad necesitan mucha ayuda. Por eso tenemos aquí el radio. Si alguien quiere venir acá a hablar, a ayudarnos, pues aquí también, que vengan. Vamos a tener otras cosas aquí en el estudio. Aquí estamos para apoyar a nuestra gente. Aquí estamos para ayudar, para dar consejos. Yo no doy consejos de ley. Yo contacto a la gente que sabe de la ley o gente de doctor también. Yo no soy nada de doctor. Me pongo mejor para ayudar a mi gente en esta manera. So overall, I believe that we as a community, we have to help others. We have the ability. If we have a resource, we have a resource Sharon here that's able to help. And I believe that's very, very important that we continue to do what is right for our community and for our nation.
And communities, we help each other together, right? Like
Mhm.
one of the things when I knock on people's doors, I'm asking for their help with their vote. And really what I'm doing is, my name is right there, but there's almost kind of who I am. And then there's that name. But really what we're trying to do is we're trying to organize each other and saying, these are our values. Let's take these values. Let's build a government. Let's build a society based on this. And I feel like sometimes people feel like times are really dark, like crime is up and prices are up and the price of housing, and people are worried about climate change and so many other issues. But with democracy, there's no white knight coming except for us.
Mhm.
We're the ones that have to do it. And so we do it together. And I want all your listeners to know that I'm never going to ask somebody's immigration status, that I'm not law enforcement. I'm a safe person to come and talk to. And if they have ideas or if they're struggling with something, they can send in an email and I won't share it unless they want me to.
Dice ella, Sharon dice que ella está para apoyar a la gente. A latinos, latinas, si usted tiene un problema o se necesitan ayuda, le pueden mandar un mensaje por email a ella. Ella no está para entregar a usted a la migración. Está para apoyar su familia. And I say the same thing about myself. I'm here. I have been doing it, helping people who are sometimes in dire need. On legal things, same thing. I send them down to the Northwest Justice Project. I had those connections, but I am here to help. She's an official by the state of Washington, and she's able to help you. And she might have, I know she has more connections. Ella tiene más conexiones que yo, porque ella puede hacer más cosas para ustedes. Si es posible, pues lo que lo puede hacer, lo hace. I'm not trying to put too much on you, but I do know you have a little bit of
well, you're one of those connections, so I might ask for your help.
But anyway, ella está aquí para apoyar a ustedes. Está lista para servir más tiempo en Olimpia para ustedes.
Yeah. Thank you.
¿Está bien?
Yeah, está muy bien. Muchas gracias para traducir mi inglés. No puedo hacer
it's good,
solo.
Good. But anyway, we goes to an hour, but I thought, well, I enjoy the conversation. I enjoy talking to you. I know you have done a lot of work in Olympia. Now I'm going to ask you one question, which is going to be that's been brought up in recently, actually. the abortion. Do you go one way or another on that? How do you feel about that, Sharon?
So I'm pro-choice, and the reason I'm pro-choice is I don't know when an embryo becomes a human. I just don't know. And so I think that women's lives are complicated,
Mm-hmm.
that they should need to be able to decide that themselves. And especially when things go wrong. There was a story of a woman at St. Joe's
Mm-hmm.
who had a pregnancy that was very much wanted.
Mm-hmm.
It went the wrong way. Her doctor was my doctor. We actually had the same OBGYN.
Mm.
So I took the story very, very personally. Things went the wrong way. The baby she was going to die. And the baby was going to have, it was born, it was going to be a very short, painful life. She wanted to have an abortion very late in the game because there was nothing else to do.
Mm-hmm.
She had to get an ethics panel. While she was in incredible pain, she almost died because of it. I don't think that's right.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that people in Olympia should be just making decisions that should really be made by a woman and her doctor.
Okay.
And so I think it's really hard. I think if I liked what Bill Clinton said, which is abortions should be safe, legal, and rare.
Mm-hmm.
And if we really want to reduce abortions, what we need to do is we need to wrap young mothers around with services.
Mm-hmm.
We need to make sure that they have paid family and medical leave, that they have enough income, that they have affordable housing, that we have early learning and childcare so that they can go back to work, make enough money to feed their child. That's what I think is truly pro-life.
Yeah. Okay, good. And that's what I want to listen your part. Ella está para que viva la importancia que es para la mujer, para hacerlas que ella tenga el derecho de, ojalá de no perder el bebé, o se quiera para hacer la cosa que ella tiene el derecho como una mamá, como una madre. Pues esa fue la pregunta que ella está para, en español would be para pro-life, para vivir, para tener niño o niña, como sea.
I don't know.
You're good.
My Spanish isn't. I don't know. I can order tacos. That's about it.
Okay. Well, I think we pretty well got to the point, Sharon, that people did listen, and we're going to be sharing this video. And I hope that most of you have listened, and I didn't see any questions being asked because it was set up for you to chat, but I didn't see no information right now. Everybody's quiet.
Otra vez.
Yeah, so
they can send me an email.
There you go. Send her an email, mándale una email a Sharon. Si usted tiene pregunta, ahí tiene la información en la pantalla para que ustedes puedan escribir un mensaje, okay? So thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll end our little program right now.
Mucho gusto.
Okay. Good enough.